No one will tell you when you join that your brothers will move in one way or another as you continue to carry the weight. Some of them will drop their rucks and fade away one by one. Some of them will die. There doesn't have to be a war on either. There's always some festering wound of a place waiting for us to suffer in. Brothers died doing the job long before 9/11. When they die, some go willingly and some are almost surprised. Some cling to this earth with every dying breath. No one knows how they'll take it when their time comes. Some of the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on this planet cry for their mothers and claw at the ground. And some dudes, who barely weigh $150 soaking wet, go down swinging like heavyweight champs. Nothing you have experienced before can prepare you for the darkness that will strangle you the day that you lose one of your brothers. And you will never get used to hearing about another death. All of them become framed pictures on a wall somewhere. Men who will never again get to kiss their children goodnight or share good times with friends and loved ones. No one will tell you that those dead brothers can haunt you. In time, if you stay, you'll be surrounded by a sea of fresh faces and yet feel completely alone. They'll be different men, but you'll be reminded of long-lost brothers you used to know. They will be young men who have some of the same mannerisms and quirks that your long-lost brothers used to have. Some will even look just like old friends, and it'll stop you in your tracks at times. The young guys will think that you're some kind of creeper by the way that you'll just be staring at them. No one will tell you that you'll watch new faces make the same old mistakes over and over. And you'll see most of the ones in charge also make the same stupid mistakes that have made many times before. You'll discover that men who carry the weight can only see what is in front of them. And because of that, they know exactly what it takes to ruck up. But they can't see the big picture. And the ones who can see the bigger picture are constantly dealing with endless stupidity from higher. And because of that, they've forgotten what it takes to carry the weight. You will know many men with huge love me walls and puffed out chests. They will tell grand stories and it all sounds so fucking awesome. But no one will tell you the real heroes are broken old men with premature gray hair and shaking hands who stare through gazed eyes at crumpled pictures from an old cigar box. No one will tell you that if you stick around long enough, you won't even recognize the very community you joined. If you ever find yourself in that situation, you need to remember, it's a byproduct of going all in. It is then that you realize how much you love the community. It is such a big kick in the balls to comprehend that you have to commit completely to the community to be accepted. And once you're accepted, you can never leave. You are forever a part of it, whether you like it or not. The problem is, everybody has to leave eventually. Some leave like rock stars. Some sneak out the back door. And some go in disgrace. I saw two types of men in the community. Those who came in right out of boot camp, and those who came from some other unit after doing a few years in the suck. Each type of man lasted about 10 to 13 solid years of carrying the weight before they called it quit and moved on to some kind of B billet, which really was just a place to catch a break and pretend that they didn't quit. They always came back exhausted and lost, a little too pudgy and a little too far out of the loop. I was no different. I was just honest about quitting. My cup was full and I was done, and I didn't want to spend endless hours suffering anymore. I no longer wanted to spend what little free time I had getting drunk in the ISO hooch and talking about tactics and gear. I wanted to be a father and a husband, and I wanted to drive a minivan and to have a nice, boring life. Most of all, I just wanted a break. Even though I knew it was time to move on, I still regret doing it to this day. That's the price of going all in. The last person I gave this advice to about 10 years ago was a guy named Stan. He had a wife and young kids, but he assured me he understood what I was telling him. I saw a young man hungry for something more. And even though he heard me, I knew he wasn't listening. A few years later, I ran into him in one of my units. His marriage was faltering, and he never saw his kids. He was frustrated with the leadership and his brothers. He hoped that the new batch of leaders soon to arrive would be different. I told him he sounded just like a community guy. A few years after that, he got his leg blown off in the sandbox. His wife had left him and took the kids long before that. The suck tossed him aside once he couldn't carry a ruck anymore. He moved down south and I lost touch with him. I remember looking at his Facebook pictures before he disappeared, and I saw an angry man who was old before his time, just like a community guy. I used to tell young men to think a long time about what is waiting for them before they decide to join the community. But I've learned that by the time they get to me, they've already made up their mind. Most of the time, when a young man asks for advice, he's just looking for validation. None of them really want to hear the bad stuff. I understand that very well. I will leave you with some words of wisdom to burn in your soul as you begin the journey down that rabbit hole. They're not my words. They were handed down to me by the men who trained me many years ago. We the willing, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We have done so much with so little for so long. We are qualified to do anything with nothing. Never above you, never below you, always beside you. And that's the end of the article. That's by Jimmy Stair. Go check it out. His website's www.jimmy-stair.com. And the article is called All In. I don't know if you guys can see it there or not. It's kind of, yeah. That's the picture of the article. Well, anyways, hope you guys have a good 4th of July. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off because it is raining and I don't want the camera any more wet. So, laters. Bye.